Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Nitecast. Today we are brought here with Drifty, Hassan, Mithy, CJ, and myself, Production Journal. And today we're actually here with a very special guest, Gavin, who's working on Spider-Man Lotus. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How about you guys?
We're doing great.
Very, very good.
Not bad. So, Drifty, would you like to take it away?
So can everyone introduce themselves? So we'll start with Hassan, because he's at the bottom of my screen.
Hello, everybody. My name is Hassan, and I'm here today.
That was brilliant. That was awesome.
That was
That
beautiful.
was amazing. That was so. I didn't know what to say. Okay, I'm sorry.
Alright, Mithy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Mithy. Go watch Coda. It's coming out soon.
Oh
Don't.
my god, man.
Bro, this is about Spider-Man
all.
Lotus. Man's talking about Coda. No one wants to know.
They're not compare. You can't compare the two. It's not comparable in any way, shape, or form. One
Right?
is a movie, and the other is.
Alright, CJ, who are you? Hello. Who
Hi,
you?
I'm CJ. That one doesn't count. I made a Superman video yesterday. Go watch it because it's good, and don't watch Christians because it's
Oh
bad.
Why is everyone promoting now? Alright, Christian.
I know, right? I know, right?
Hi, I'm Christian. I'm not going to comment on CJ's comment because it's immature.
Now Gavin, would you like to introduce yourself?
I am Gavin, and I'm making a movie. Not many people know about it. Some Spider-Man movie, low budget, not much to it. So,
Yeah.
nice to be here.
You say that, but can we start there? Like your thing kind of blew up, and I want to say, how does that feel first of all? Because I feel like that's got to be something you didn't wholly plan for, right?
Yeah, no, I didn't plan it at all. Because really, I mean, I've just been working on it, and it's weird because no one knew about it. Barely anyone knew about it for the whole time I was working on it for about 2 years now. So like, for instance, announcing the movie and then revealing the costume and revealing all these things that I've kept secret for such a long time. It's been really weird because I kept them secret for so long, and it's always been like something I kept to myself. So to see the title Lotus and to see the costume, like posted by people on Twitter or posted on Instagram, it's very strange to see it kind of taken off and posted everywhere. And like, I'll just be scrolling on Twitter and I'll see the costume, and it's very weird because it used to only be in my camera roll. It was the only thing that it had back in the day.
Damn.
So to see it kind of everywhere is just kind of very surreal and very weird to think about.
I mean, the symbol too. It's like people take it as their profile pic too, right? Like they take it as like art, and I think that's gotta be crazy, man. I think
It is.
it's
Like, the fact
the
that-
exposure on it has been amazing.
Yeah, people are
Yeah.
also like comparing it to huge, all the other Spider-Man like live-action costumes and things.
Yeah.
And movies.
Which
It's actual.
I personally, I think, it's become a problem. I think there have been a lot of times where they've been compared, and it caused a problem on Twitter. And it caused a lot of debates,
Definitely.
and a lot of people being aggressive. And I always say, like, unless it's something constructive, like if you're comparing them in a constructive way, just don't do it. If you're going to use my stuff to tear down the movies, then
Yeah, exactly,
don't bother.
exactly.
I'm not going to support that, obviously. So that's been a problem, but, it's gotten better over the past couple months.
Yeah.
Do you think the movies have like influence over the way you even see like your own? Like, of course, it's a fan film and you're doing it kind of like on your own. But do you? I guess not inspiration per se, but just even influence. Do you think about the movies while you're working on your scripts or while you're working on like pre-production tests and stuff?
Honestly, I think the way I approached it, I wanted to do it as just a completely genuine adaptation of the comics. So honestly, when I was writing the script and everything and making the movie, all of my inspiration came from non-Spider-Man things. It came from the comic books, but in terms of like
Like
the filmmaking,
Smallville too, right?
yeah, like Smallville, Eternal Sunshine, all these different movies, both the Before Sunrise, that trilogy and everything. But
Yes,
when I was
yes.
writing the script, all the inspiration came from the comics. I didn't really look to any other adaptations for inspiration because then, when you take the comics and you just adapt them, the changes I think will be a lot more respectful and a lot closer to, the original vision for the character and everything. And I think when you start adapting other adaptations is when it starts to lose a little bit of its uniqueness and its own genuine identity. So a lot of the inspiration, I didn't take that much inspiration from the other Spider-Man movies, aside from Spider-Man 2's tone. I think the comparisons kind of end there.
And I think when you mention something like the Before trilogy too, that comes from a place of like like Richard Linklater's style is all solely based around authenticity, right? And being able to pick up the camera and tell something like a story that they write it, and there's so much work that goes into writing those things, and it's like, but like it comes from a place of like we are people and we are presenting ourselves as people on camera, and I think from what I've seen and how you talk about it on Instagram and stuff, I feel like that's something you're trying to bring, and I think especially with the people that you cast, there's a clear love for the source material, where I feel like, I mean, obviously it's uncomparable to, I mean, there are parts of it that are comparable, but mostly uncomparable to the big blockbuster style of filmmaking that comes with, modern comic book adaptations. But, when those pieces are so segmented, it's hard to, be able to infuse it with that love from every part of production. What was it like for you guys, like on production? Because I know Tuyen posts a lot about her love for Spider-Man, and a lot of you guys, and Warden wanted to play Spider-Man for so long. What was it like for you guys on set in terms of respecting the source material and, from that nature of getting everyone involved with Spider-Man?
Yeah. I think what's interesting about this is that, the entire cast and crew, they are huge Spider-Man fans, and a lot of them they're doing it because they see a certain vision for the character, and they all want to follow that vision, and they all believe in that vision. So what's cool is that we were all able to bond over that shared love for the character, and we've become very close, all of us, which I think was very important for me because, the cast, Peter, Gwen, Harry, and MJ, I think in film and really most adaptations, you've never really seen their true, genuine, honest friendship, because they do have that deep-rooted friendship, and they're all true best friends. And I think having the cast in real life getting along so well and seeing it reflected on the camera was very special, and especially when they embody their characters so well. They all understand the characters to their core. I know Mariah researched how MJ moves, how she acts, how she thinks. Tuyen has known Gwen for her whole life, and she was a Gwen fan before she even got cast. Sean and Warden, they've been huge comic book fans. Sean has probably read more comics than me. So I think it was cool. I mean, I was able to collaborate with the actors on certain things, and they were able to pitch ideas in, and Sean was able to pitch ideas for Harry, and every other actor was able to pitch their own ideas. What's that?
Yeah, because it's
Oh, Dawood say.
Ooh, Dawood game.
Hello, Dawood.
Hello.
He just
Oh, Jesus.
Wow. Okay, that was random.
Okay, then.
Yeah, that's actually good, because then actors are also like, it's a collaborative process. And
Yeah.
That's probably the best thing for making films, I guess.
Yeah, I think a lot, like even the first week, when Warden first put on the suit, I was able to just trust him in his line delivery because he knew the script as well as I did, and he knows Spider-Man as well as I did. So when, that first time that he delivered a line in the costume, I was like, whoa, because he had this specific Spider-Man voice that I think we both kind of envisioned, but I'd never heard it before. Being on set and hearing it was the first time I heard it. So I was able to put a lot of trust into them to kind of take the characters in their own directions, because they, we all share an equal understanding of them. So that was very cool.
You said you have a question next to it. Go ahead.
So, obviously, Lotus so far has just become this icon across comic book Twitter and Instagram. It's been a really huge thing. And so I've seen that you've also been very vocally supportive of other people making their own short films and stuff. And so I'm wondering, to what extent have you been collaborative with people who are making stuff like Spider-Man, Monsters of Manhattan, or any other kind of projects like that?
As of now, I haven't gotten too far involved with other projects. I've become friends with them without a doubt, and we talk a lot. Like Joey and Nero and all of them, they're all super cool guys. I cameoed in Monsters of Manhattan. I came down to set, and it was a lot of fun. We just hung out, and I was able to see their creative process, which was really cool. Brand's a super nice guy, but I haven't gotten directly involved in the creative process of any of them, because I kind of like to see what they want to do with the characters or their own interpretations. But yeah, I haven't been working on other projects as of now. I've just been focused on Lotus, but I would love in the future to collaborate with people on more original projects. I don't know if I want to do Spider-Man my whole life. I would like to get into original stuff and collaborate with people on that, because I think when you're doing original projects, you have more freedom to express yourself, and that's what I'd like to do with other creators in the future.
Oh yeah, I did get
Yes,
a
yeah.
question like that, and it said if you were able to make a film on another character, I know this isn't like an original thing, but if you are able to make another character, like another comic book character, which one would you do other than Spider-Man, of course?
I would like to do Eobard Thawne, Professor Zoom.
Oh, yeah.
That's a great.
Yeah, in middle school, I was obsessed with Professor Zoom and all the Reverse Flashes. So I think it'd be really interesting to tell a story from the perspective of Eobard Thawne, and I would include other Reverse Flashes and Flashes, but it would generally be from his perspective. And I don't know if I'd crowdfund that myself or if I'd fund that myself. I would probably try to pitch it to DC or something. I don't know how far I'd be able to get with it, but that is the character that I would like to do a story of.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and-
speaking on, or sorry, do you have something?
No, it's fine, Matthew, it's fine.
Speaking on like original work too, because I know one thing is because I've been working on a couple of shorts and stuff randomly over the past couple of years, but I've thought of doing kind of fan films of sorts. I have ideas for like Batman fan films or like Teen Titans like little miniseries stuff. But I guess for me personally, the reason I opted to do like a couple more original projects too is because I felt like I wasn't ready for that. Or like I need to save that in some way, shape, or form. And I know obviously, you tell your friends about it, they'll be like, no, go for it, and you feel empowered to do something like that. But I feel like internally, I still have that struggle to be like, I don't know if I'm ready to do a Batman fan film yet or something. I don't know if it's like that for you, but like if it was like that for you, how did you deal with that? How did you kind of overcome that? Because I mean, we'll sit here all day and tell you that we are so much looking forward to Lotus, but what is that like internally for you to be able to say, yeah, I'm going to do the Spider-Man thing, and I'm going to take it up on my old shoulders and do it myself?
It was very, very difficult doing the whole process and having people doubt me so much, because I would go to people and I'd tell them I'm going to try to crowdfund for a $20,000 Spider-Man fan film, and they just laugh about it because it sounds ridiculous. So I was kind of drifting through it on my own. The only people who really believed in it were Warden and Sean and the costume creators and any that small group we had. But it was a very small amount of support that I was kind of running on throughout the whole process. So that pressure of getting into the film, and especially because it's my first feature film that I've ever done. So for me to tackle that, it was very intimidating because I didn't fully know, how a set works, how to schedule things, how to get everything right, how to direct actors. But I think because of the fact that it was such an ambitious project, and because of the fact that it was so massive in scale, I learned 1,000 times more from doing it than I would from making small short films. Because of the fact it was so challenging in so many different ways. And we were in New York, we were all the way in Arkansas, we're traveling all over the place. It was a lot of work, and it was a lot to learn, a lot of learning curves. But those challenges really help you, and they really shape you. And you got to just always keep in mind that you're not trying to compete with other people. You're just trying to do the best thing that you can personally do, or try to top your own work. And when you're doing that, it's much healthier in how you learn and how you develop. When you're not trying to consider other projects, you're not thinking about big movies, you're not thinking about your friends' movies or people on Twitter or anything like that. You're not considering it a competition. You're just focused on what you can personally do. And when you do that, I think a lot of the pressure and the stress kind of leaves your body because you're just kind of focused on yourself.
I gotta say, if I may,
healthy way of saying that.
If I may ask, you're 18 now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's insane to me, man. Just to think about that you did all this shit when you were like, I guess 17 and 18. That's insane for me to think about, just in general. How and you did it with this mindset too. That's a really mature way of thinking, and I you deserve accolades for that, man.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
When I found out about your age, my mind was blown. I did not realize you were that young. And you're out here making full-on Spider-Man. Like it's just mind blowing.
I found out today when you told me just now.
Really?
Yo, what? What? Really? Like, so
You're keeping up with your.
CJ, you're asleep. Sharp. What are you talking?
Dude, doing it at that age came with its own huge slew of challenges, especially with parents and trying to convince them that I'm not insane and out of my mind.
I gotta say that's gonna be the biggest one for me.
Yeah, dude.
How do you?
Like telling them I want to go to Arkansas and New York to make a Spider-Man movie, crowdfunded with all these people that I've never met in person before. They did think I was insane for a little while, but it took a lot of convincing, and then having. I mean,
it's kind of
schoolwork. Go ahead.
It's kind of wish fulfillment, right? Because it's like you're Spider-Man almost. It's like on the side you're doing high school and you got to get through all this stuff, but then on the other side you're making a thing that you're super passionate about, and it's a real piece of work. But then it requires it requires a lot of hard work and determination. So I guess in a weird way, it's that part of it too. I guess seeps into the character.
Yeah, I mean, I had to keep a lot of people I didn't tell about it. Like I told anyone I told would just laugh about it, and I'd be like, well, whatever. So. I kept it a secret for a long time, and I had my personal account on Instagram, and then I had my GJK account, and a lot of people at school didn't know about it, and it was really weird, and I'd be embarrassed whenever someone found out about it because I didn't, there was nothing to back up my name at that time, so it was just some fan account. So it came with its own difficulties, and having to balance schoolwork and parents and all these other things, and but I think in the end it really paid off, and I wouldn't change anything about how everything happened.
That's amazing.
Oh,
and
yeah.
A question that I've been asked so many times, because I don't know if you saw, but I put up on Twitter asking people for questions, and I got asked, does the movie have a supervillain? Like 7 times. So does the movie have a supervillain?
Does it have a supervillain? There's no main physical antagonist. There's no main villain.
So what you're saying is you got Alfred Molina, is what you're saying, right? Yeah. So he's okay. Okay, yeah. Daniel RBK, take that and run with it, please.
I won't rule out other characters appearing in the movie, but there's no 3-act. Villain comes in the beginning, and then they have to overcome the villain by the end. That story is not in the movie.
Oh, so how does it work making a story like that, where it's just like there's no main villain? Is it?
It was interesting because you can't really look to superhero movies for inspiration on making the script because there aren't many superhero movies like that aside from like Joker, and I don't think Lotus and Joker are very similar, and they don't really stem from the same places. So in terms of comic book movies, I couldn't take much inspiration from them. So I had to look to dramas like the Before trilogy and like Eternal Sunshine and all my favorite movies like that, and kind of had to look at it as a drama because I don't think a lot of comic book movies have attempted to go for just a pure drama. So you kind of, the plot structure was very much inspired by that, and it's going to be interesting to see Spider-Man. You see him in the costume and everything, but it feels so grounded and so different from any other Spider-Man movie because it's not an action movie; it's a drama with action in it.
Yeah, I think.
And speaking, or go ahead, yeah.
I completely forgot what I was going to say. Thank you, Mithi. I'm joking it. What was I going to say? Okay, Mithi, just take your question.
Are you sure? Okay. You mentioned the Before trilogy again, and I'm going to keep going off because I keep thinking about that fucking 3 movies all the time these days. But like with because you clearly are taking a lot of inspiration from both Spider-Man Blue and the kid who collects Spider-Man, right?
Yeah.
And with that comes the gravity of this Peter and Gwen relationship. And I can even see behind the scenes how much you're shooting with Tien and Warden, that really means a lot, and depicting that means a lot. And especially when you say you're drawing from movies like these, what's it like to shoot interactions between these two characters? Because I did a thing where, you shoot a couple of scenes that are kind of romantic between characters, but it's hard to be there behind the camera when you shoot that, because it's, especially when you're editing through like a compilation of scenes, it's hard to gauge the chemistry properly. With you guys, how did you guys like? I guess you can't really standardize it, but how did you guys gauge that chemistry and like move on from there?
I think Warden and Tuen spent a lot of time together. Just like they would go to like in New York, they'd go to the Met, or they'd go to like Central Park and just walk around and talk and get to know each other. So they became really close friends over the course of production, and they got to know each other really well, and they became pretty vulnerable with the things they talked about with each other and how close they got. So by the time we got to shoot those romantic scenes, they were already so well adjusted to one another, and they understood each other so well, to where the chemistry felt like it was just them, and it didn't feel like characters in a weird way. They were so, they got along so well so quickly, and it was such a gift for us to have that, because you roll the cameras and they're on it. You don't have to. I didn't have to tell them to adjust their line deliveries or anything like that, because it was so natural and it flowed so well. But honestly, I really commend Warden and Tuen for taking so much time together and getting to know each other so well, so be as effective as they were.
By the way, CJ, do you have a question?
I mean, I was going to come up with one last night, but then I kind of went to sleep. So
He's always sleeping.
Yeah, why are you always asleep?
What do you want from me?
Look, in his defense, it is 8 in the morning for us.
Just don't be Australian.
8 in the morning for you.
It's not that
For
hard.
real.
Hassan had a question. He said,
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, right. I think I was more like on board with this project when I watched this video. I think it was on like your the fund website that you used. It was where you talked about Harry's drug addiction, and that was something that like hasn't been tapped into any other Spider-Man films and things. It's just so interesting, that you're really like exploring these characters and going like really deep with them.
Yeah, I think the closest we've ever gotten to Harry's drug addiction was Spectacular Spider-Man, and even then they had to adjust it for kids to be not about drugs. So I think it was very interesting to go in a place of Harry in this movie is so drastically different from any Harry beforehand. I think the closest I can compare it to is like the new animated series Harry and his personality, but that only goes so far, and like the charisma and the mask that Harry puts up. I think with Harry, it felt good to just start from the ground and have no sort of inspiration from existing Spider-Man media, and to just look purely at the comics and think, okay, I'm going to take this, I'm going to take that, and I'm going to kind of translate it into modern day. But Harry, by far, is, to me, the most interesting character in the film. And even when it comes down to the cinematography, the music, Sean's acting, all of it is just my favorite parts. Harry, to me, when you guys see it, he has some of the best shots in the movie, and Tristan absolutely killed it on those shots. But Harry's like one of the main characters in this movie, and I think going in depth on his drug addiction and going even further than that with, because his father just died, and we're kind of exploring the aftermath of that and the everything that directly happens to him and how he deals with it. And it was so good to finally get into that character's mind, because he is one of my favorite characters in comic books. And to have someone like Sean, who's so dedicated to the character and resembles him almost exactly, it was always magical to film his scenes on set and everything like that.
It's just so powerful.
Because I saw that scene in the trailer in New York, and I was like, that's a nice ass shot. I was like, I don't know what's going on in that sequence. I want to see more from that sequence, because I feel like shooting in New York must be both a nightmare and a dream, probably, right?
Yeah, it honestly went really well, if I'm being honest. We didn't, we got approached by the cops like one time, and we just kind of we talked it out with them, and they're like, "Oh, cool, you guys can go ahead and do it." So we didn't encounter too many problems. It was a lot of fun.
Mithy, didn't you get approached for like security or something?
Okay. I guess you guys we tried to shoot at a parking ramp, and we told them we were shooting under a club, and they kicked us out in 15 minutes. It's
small little parking. Oh man,
it was a small part. You guys shouted. So yeah, I'm jealous. Okay, I'm jealous that you guys got to shoot in Times Square, and I couldn't shoot on the top of a fucking parking ramp that no one was on.
Speaking of small,
there you go.
Wait, nah. Speaking of small, how big? This question I've been asked. How big? This is not what you think. How big or small will the action sequences be? Is a question I got from.
Let me think. They won't be like. I guess it depends on what the scale is. I think the scenes don't go massive, and it's not like the city doesn't get destroyed or anything like that. But I think they're like medium. They're not super small. they're going to be a lot of. We're going to shoot all of it, all the action stuff in the fall for additional photography because we want to take that shift from drama to action, and we want to have time to prepare for it and make it the best it can be. But I think generally the action is pretty contained, but it still feels kind of grand.
And are there good swinging sequences? Is another thing I've been asked.
There will be more than one swinging sequence in the movie.
I really want to see how the behind the scenes of how you shoot that, because I feel like that's got to be. I don't know if you shot that already or not, but that's got to be really intense to shoot.
They're going to be a mix of
getting the momentum right.
Yeah, there's going to be a mix of practicality and CGI, and we're going to try our best to make it as tangible as possible.
And I gotta say, with swinging sequences and action sequences, you guys, you had an original budget of $20K, and then now, how high did you guys go up to? Did you?
It's at $61K right now.
Yeah, that's insane. I feel like with a huge budget increase like that, how do you take because it started off as just the kid who collects Spider-Man script, right? And then you grew it from there.
It had Spider-Man. Our goals, we had different goals depending on how much we raised. So at 5,000, it was much smaller. We had the kid who collects Spider-Man and then some other elements. There's going to be it was still going to be feature length, but there would be certain things we wouldn't be able to do. So as the budget continued to grow, all we were able to do was, integrate elements that make the movie more effective. And we were able to add sequences that we never thought were possible before. And now that we're at this 60,000 number, we have added things that make it feel so full and so contained at the same time. And it doesn't feel like there's just random stuff thrown in there. It feels like everything we've thrown in because of the increased budget. It just feels like it makes everything more effective, and it makes everything more emotional and more impactful and hard-hitting. And I think people will be very, very satisfied with the elements that we added because of the increased budget.
Do you think you felt pressure to change things as the budget went on, at least script-wise and stuff, or did you know going in that no, this is what we're sticking to?
I don't know if I ever felt pressured because of the fact that, the more money we raised, the more I felt obligated. I was like, okay, now we can do this or we can do that. I always had these outrageous ideas of what I wish we could do, but I never thought we'd ever be able to do it. So when we reached certain milestones in money, I was like, okay, we can actually do this. This can actually be a thing we do. And even now, with the money we have, there are things I wish that we could add, but just the budget doesn't allow for it. So we just got to work with what we have. And I think no matter what, people are going to be very satisfied with what we've added and what the movie looks like right now.
Yeah. And another question I got was, you recently tweeted a week ago saying, "She and Warden played the single greatest prank on me of all time. I'm in utter shock. I'll tell the story somewhere someday in the future." Would you like to bless our podcast with that story?
I don't think I can tell you. It was it's literally insane. I don't even know where. I can't tell it yet. It has to be in the future when things settle down a little bit. I think you'd have to actually watch the movie first to get a little bit of context. I think it'll be after the movie releases when I finally tell what they did, because it's literally crazy.
So we'll do a part 2 of this when the movie releases for the premiere.
Yes, I'll have to come back.
That'll be perfect.
Yeah.
So, Christian, do you have anything else you want to ask?
Well, everything that any question that's coming up for me, you guys are asking really well. So I'm just sort of enjoying the discussion.
Yeah. I just wanted to ask, sort of going back to the whole budget of the thing. When you originally set the GoFundMe, it was at 18K or something. So to have it go up to, like you said, 60K at this point, how does that feel?
That must be it's absolutely incredible. And I always have to think to myself, how is this happening to my film of all things? I never envisioned myself in this position, and I never thought that I'd ever be in a place where people would be willing to put money into something that I'm creating. And I always got to keep reminding myself of where I started and where the original vision was coming from, because it's very easy to lose track of where you're going, and to kind of be taken by storm by all of this and let it overcome you and everything. So I can't stop being appreciative of it and reminding myself that every single person who donated is an individual person. They're all doing what they can to make the film come to life and everything. And they're just as much a part of the movie as any of the rest of the crew is, because they made it possible. So just got to keep reminding myself of certain things that can keep me on kind of grounded. And it's so surreal. It's so mind blowing.
Even 18K is insane. Did you even expect you to hit that, let alone what you got?
No, I thought I would barely even hit 10K, because in the original funding video, if the initial announcement video, I'm like, if we get $100, we'll do this. If we get $1,000, we'll do that. And I kind of had like such low expectations, and I had plans for like if we don't get any money at all, what we'd do. So to think we even reached the goal, which $20,000 was an insane goal to me in the first place, and I was even doubting the night before putting up the crowdfunding. I was like, should I really put 20K or should I bring it down to 15 or 10? So it was crazy. Like, I remember I'd be on PS4 with Warden and we'd just be talking, and he'd tell me, oh, we got another purchase on the Ultimate Bundle, or it'd go up 1,000, or it'd go up another 1,000. And we would just be sitting there in like complete awe. We'd just be so blown away by it. It was insane.
That's
Must be an insane feeling.
As well as the trailer as well. They got like 450K something views. That's
They got
insane.
500K.
Yeah, almost 500,000, which blows my mind.
You put Will Cookson in that trailer, and I was like, because I the first ever Will Cookson song I listened to was "Alone in the Dark" because it was in The Flash. And I don't know if you watched The Flash or not, but that was my introduction to him.
He
You did?
said,
Is that so? Did you guys reach out to him to use that song, or like how did that work out?
I found in his descriptions on YouTube that he has a website where you can purchase licensing for his music for like nonprofit stuff. So I was like, oh wow, it's perfect, because I also got introduced to him the same way through The Flash, and I'm a massive fan of Flash season 1 and 2, and I will never back down on the quality of that.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah,
Man.
me and Mithy have had many debates about The Flash.
Yeah,
We've
I
talked
think
about it a
seasons
lot.
1, 2, 3 is a fine like piece of programming to watch.
Yeah, I agree.
As a whole.
Yeah, when I was down in Arkansas, on any off days, I'd be watching season 1 again. I'd be like, dude, like, it's just so freaking good. I love it.
I just miss it. I just miss it, man.
Same.
Just
The new seasons are-
feeling so much.
And even season 3 had a lot of potential, and then they just, the
did.
Flashpoint.
I felt like it's still a fine ending.
Yeah,
you
it
know?
was
Like,
fine.
it's
I did
fine.
like it. I did like it. It just wasn't perfect. It wasn't as good as the previous ones. It was still good. And then
I agree.
after that, it just,
Plummeted.
Cinema.
Always.
Don't tell me Don't tell me
Season
Warden
two,
is also secretly playing a pizza face version of himself too. He's gonna
No.
pop out of the green
He's
goblin
not.
suit.
Oh yeah, that's why he's saying there's no villain, because that's what the villain's gonna be.
Yeah, Warden is the villain.
Yeah.
Realistically, I guess when people ask me who the villain is, I always say like each character's own self, because that's kind of what it is. Like
Damn.
Harry's battling his own demons, MJ's battling her own, Peter's battling his own. They're all sort of their own antagonists, and
That's
I
such
think
a good idea.
yeah, I think that fits so well with Spider-Man, someone who's constantly
it
beating
fits.
down on himself. What's up?
I think it fits insanely well with that Whirling character.
Yeah, I think having Spider-Man, because Spider-Man is, most of his conflicts are coming from internally. They're just kind of enhanced by external conflict, but I think the root of the characters, all his problems are coming from within.
Yeah. And another question I received was, what stage in Peter Parker's career is he of like Spider-Man?
He's been Spider-Man for 5 years now. So he's fought a lot of he's fought the Sinister Six. He's fought the Spot, Big Wheel, the Lizard, etc. Like a lot of villains that you could name, he has battled. The symbiote hasn't happened yet. Venom hasn't happened yet. But he's sort of at that point where he's very experienced, hasn't experienced everything yet.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
have any,
Spider-Man PS4 told us that is a great route to go, to already have Spider-Man late into his career.
100%.
Yeah, I've always loved that approach.
Yeah, and you also said that you won't be making sequels. Well, I heard that. I don't know if you actually said it, but you won't be making any sequels or doing anything, any like shared universe things. Why do you choose that decision to do that?
I just kind of don't want to, and it's not denying that I'll ever do a sequel, but as of now, it doesn't feel like at the end of Lotus, at the end of that story, the conflicts that their characters overcome and the conclusions they reach and the resolutions they reach. It doesn't feel like right now there's a place to take them, and it depends on, you know, over the next year or 2 years, if something clicks where I'm like, I can take them in this direction, then there would be a sequel. But as of right now, I think Lotus ends very conclusively, and I wouldn't want to do a sequel for the sake of it and kind of ruin where this movie ends.
I think WB should take some notes from Gavin, because the Joker sequel.
Yeah,
For
exactly,
real,
dude.
For real.
I don't know why we're getting that.
They'll make a sequel called The Spider-Man Lotus next.
Yeah, the Spider-Man Lotus.
Yeah.
The Lotus.
Oh, I mean, I guess even the way that you've been, I mean, I guess in a way, marketing Spider-Man Lotus, it does subscribe to what you're saying too. From the way you're talking about it, it feels very self-contained. I guess, did you ever think, I guess even during, like in the writing room too, were you ever like, oh, I want to make this like something where I can expand off of it, or was it start from the paper, like, all right, I'm taking Blue, I'm taking this story, I'm going to do stuff with this. Was that there from the inception, or was that something you discovered along the way?
I discovered along the way. Initially, Lotus began as an adaptation of Child Within, and that's why I initially cast Warden and Sean before anyone else. So it was going to be, you know, a story about Harry Osborn becoming the Green Goblin and going up against Spider-Man, and it would be way later in the career. It'd be kind of towards the end of Spider-Man's career, but it's something that I opted out of because it would require such a massive budget to do it correctly. Because I think when you have another antagonist in the movie, you're going to need fight scenes and action scenes, and I think with the budget we have now, even with the 60,000, is still it's still considered low budget. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I was so focused on making sure the characters are taken seriously and it's taken, you know, with weight. I didn't want it to be like just something on YouTube. I wanted to actually connect with the audience. I wanted them to become emotional and understand the characters. And I think when you have too much CGI and the CGI is not believable because you don't have the biggest budget in the world, you become a little bit disconnected with them, and it kind of degrades the story you're trying to tell. So that's why I decided to go with the drama route, and it's not massive action. You still have action, but you can decide where to put the action, and it doesn't feel like you have to put it here, you have to put it here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Going off of a tone, I guess, more so than you are off of just like a specific mandate for a sequence.
Yeah, exactly.
And with the casting, did you have like a certain criteria for who to cast, other than, you know, because you already knew Warden and stuff, but when you cast people, what were you thinking in terms of how you'd cast each character?
I was more focused on the vibe that they carry as opposed to how they look. So I was open to anyone being cast as the characters, and if they gave me the correct vibes I get from reading the comics, like when I'm reading Gwen Stacy, I feel a certain way. If I'm reading Harry Osborn, I feel a certain way, or Peter Parker. So it was very much based on their atmosphere, how they carry themselves, everything like that. I wasn't as concerned with the physicality. I just got very lucky with how accurate they all looked to the comic books. But there were a lot of people I considered that didn't look much like the comics at all, and they were in like some of my top decisions. But I ended up going with who made me feel like how I feel reading the comics, because then in that way I'm able to translate the atmosphere and the tone and kind of the vibe of the comic books into a movie and live action.
Mm-hmm.
I guess speaking of cast, you worked with,
I like that.
Speaking of cast, you worked with Maxwell. I don't know his last name. The
Max
kid for
Fox.
What was Max Fox? Yeah, you worked with him for the stuff for Tim Harrison. What was that like? Because I mean, that was like one of the first things you guys shot, right? Was a lot of those sequences.
Yeah, we just shot straight through it 4 days, and he did such a fantastic job, and he was so easy to work with, and he really nailed his script, and he really studied it over the months that we had to prepare. And he's a Spider-Man fan in real life. He really cares about the character, and he kind of in a lot of ways reminded me of when I was a little kid and how I perceived Spider-Man and everything like that. And I was able to have a lot of conversations with him about the comics and about the characters, and he was able to keep up. He knows his stuff. So when it came to acting, it felt like he was very he didn't have to play a part really. He was just kind of taking the dialogue and being himself with it. So those scenes were a lot of fun to shoot. They were very easy to shoot because everyone was working really hard, and Warden knew exactly what he was doing. Max knew what he was doing, and it was a lot of fun. It was very seamless. We were able to get everything we needed.
Yeah.
Actually, what else has the Twitter mob said? I want to know.
I think I've read.
I want to know.
You've read through
one?
all of them. The other ones.
I gotta say, so many
I
questions
have
are
one.
about like the. I was gonna say.
The only ones left are ones that says "Does it fart?" and like it literally that's what
Oh,
it
okay,
says.
okay, yeah, that's your followers, not Gavin's.
There's one that says, "Is there a Spider-Man dancing scene?"
Yeah.
Spider-Man
That's a good
dancing
question.
scene.
That's a good
Actually,
question.
let me think. Actually, very briefly, and I can't give context on it. It's not. I don't know how to describe it. You'll just have to wait and see.
With the AU.
Yo, wait.
Nitecast exclusive.
Something about,
Yeah.
It's hard to talk about it without like spoiling, so I can't really give context at all.
I'm just gonna assume it's the symbiote and it's Green Goblin and they're all
Yeah.
like, dancing together.
And
or
there's
something.
multiverse. Tom Holland comes in. Andrew
Yeah,
Garfield.
yeah.
Miles Morales, Carnage, all that.
Spoilers.
Yeah, there we go.
Spider-Man's in
We
it.
got. Yeah. No way.
We got you to spoil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean like all the Twitter mob questions. A lot of them have been regarding like continuity and like the plot and stuff like that. I
Yeah.
mean, how does that make you feel? It's like it's not just people asking what camera did you use. It's like
Yeah.
people like going into like the actual. I guess some of it comes with the character of Spider-Man, but like
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah.
I know you're doing your own thing. Do you ever feel pressure from that, or do you ever feel like there's something you need to respond to that or something? Like what's your stance on people watching this movie with expectations?
I think in terms of the expectation, I kind of feel like I said this on the phone the other day with someone. I think if they saw where my vision was coming from and they heard everything I had to say and they wanted to fund it because of that, and they believe in my vision for the character, I think that they will be satisfied with the movie, and I don't have to worry about the expectation. And I think, there's always going to be haters, but I'm not trying to appease them or satisfy them. I'm just kind of I'm focused on my own ideal Spider-Man movie and making, what I would like to see from a Spider-Man film. So anyone who's following that and anyone who's supporting that, and they know how I see Spider-Man and what I say about Spider-Man, what I see for Spider-Man, I think they will be satisfied with what I have to bring to the table, and I don't really have to worry about people will be disappointed or not.
I think it's great that you're not tired of waiting and you just decided to do this, by yourself.
Yeah.
And just take matters into your own hand. It's great, and I think you've honestly redefined the fan film. I don't know how to say it. Community? I don't know.
Yeah, you're running
I
out
don't
of
like
words.
to think about it like
Son.
that.
I know what you're saying. You're saying that you've effectively set the bar very high.
Yeah. Not redefined. What the hell was
Yeah.
that?
Wait, that's
I don't.
Yeah, say
Go ahead.
No, that's fine. It's fine.
Well, yeah, I just don't like to think about making any sort of influence or impact or anything like that, because there are so many fan films out there, and I'm just kind of one of them. And everybody's got their own idea of what they want to make, and some people like to go more homemade with it, and they like to be less professional, which I respect that just as much as anyone who tries to reach the bar of a Hollywood movie. So I think I don't like to think of myself as like changing the community or making any sort of drastic impact. I just I try to stay in my own bubble, in my own head, and I try not to let the influence of it get to me too much, or I try not to think about it too much, because then that's when it becomes overwhelming, and that's where you start to freak out a little bit.
I think the first of one of the Spider-Man movies, the fan films that made a huge impact, was definitely Joey's one, Spider-Man
Yeah.
Lost Cause, because it's got like almost 50 million views now, and it was the first of like a higher budget. Well, I don't think he actually had a budget, but it definitely looked higher budget than some of the other ones, and it was a feature film as well. It was like a full length, and that was one of them.
You didn't get that from fan films generally before his film. So he definitely made a huge impact on people.
Yeah, he made a huge one. And do you think that paved the way in any way for you to make a bigger budget Spider-Man Lotus film? Then
I think I mean I definitely think when I was a little kid I used to love Joey's stuff, and I I even remember at some points I would reenact his trailers and stuff like that because he had really good trailers. But you know, I think because of the fact that he went out and did that, and he showed people that you can do that, it definitely paved the way. And I was mostly inspired by, like, you know, I would see people on YouTube, I'd see the amount of fan films out there, and I'd see people crowdfunding, and be like, well, you know, I could probably do that too. But none of those people would have been able to do it, or they never probably would have gone for it if Joey didn't. So I definitely think he paved the way in many ways.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, because I grew up like in high school with this stigma around fan films where it was like, oh, it's a fan film, you know, like he just bought a costume from Target and then he shot something on his camera. And it's like, I mean, there's something good that can come from that simple of a thing too. But in that moment, you see this conversation online. But then I think with stuff that Mauricio did, at least with my own image and in seeing stuff, the stuff that Mauricio did, the Bat in the Sun movie. I mean, like there's a clear standard, I think, increasing for like these kind of movies where I think it's the word fan film used to be, I think, used to demotivate people, and I think that shouldn't be the case really anymore.
Yeah, when people talk about The Flash, they like show a clip and they say this looks like a fan film or something like that. And
exactly,
like it looks worse than a lot of fan films today. You know, it's like it's
there's definitely a stigma that follows it for sure.
Yeah. And it's nice to see people like you and your films breaking away from that whole what people think of the fan films in general.
I think there's a difference between, you know, overcoming the stigma of fan films and then what fan films actually are, because there are a lot of admirable fan films, but you definitely do have to make it clear that you're not like that stigma. You're not kind of like that generalization, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Wait, I'm trying to find another Twitter one, but they're literally all just random ones at this point.
But how is it dealing with the Twitter mob? Because I know, because I gotta ask something too about Twitter stuff. Like I feel like, I mean, even High Top does this too, where it's like you tweet something controversial, and then it gets a lot of attention, and then it draws some kind of conversation. Is there a part of that where it's like I don't care, or it's like do you? Because I feel like, I mean, you don't do it with any offense, obviously. It's like you're just putting your opinions on the internet. But I feel like, do you think there's anything to Twitter to be like, you know, why are people taking this seriously? It's just a tweet kind of thing, or like like what?
Twitter's very interesting. I always use it as just like putting my own stuff out there, and if I'm thinking something, then I'll just tweet it out. And people always kind of think that you're being aggressive, or like you're doing it with bad intentions, or you're sitting there and you're super angry, you're sitting in a corner in your room and you're thinking about it all the time, and then you just exist to hate or whatever. But really, you're just, you know, you got a thought and you typed it out and you put it out there, and people try to misinterpret what you do.
All I did yesterday was just color grade a clip from Shang-Chi.
Wow,
I got so much hate.
That was all over.
You
That
have
was
to be
all
the
over my
laziest
TL as
person
well.
on Twitter.
For real, the whole of the timeline was just talking about Shang-Chi's color grading. All I did was try and color grade a scene.
I mean, there's a thing to that where it does spark a conversation, you know, when Drifty tweets some shit like that, and it's like, but I mean, it's like, it's at least an interesting conversation to behold, but then it's so weird to me to see people be like, I guess, I mean, especially with you and like Spider-Man stuff, it's like I don't get it half the time, but I guess it's just natural when you're making a Spider-Man short film to see people talk to you about Spider-Man stuff and your opinions on Spider-Man stuff.
Yeah.
And
I've tried to word it in like the most respectful way possible, and I like stick in my opinion. I put that everywhere, and people still just get so aggressive and angry, and it's like, just chill out. Like, it's really not that big of a deal, you know?
Yeah.
People do.
But yeah, at the end of the day, it's just a character. Like, calm down.
I've had to just delete it off my phone quite a few times, because sometimes I just can't handle those people. They're just so like. They're just so disconnected from reality, and they're just kind of stuck on Twitter all the time, and they're just so prone to being aggressive. It's like, just take a step back sometimes and not pay attention to what they're saying, because
that clip is going to get taken out of context. Someone's going to say Gavin hates Twitter or something, and then they're all going to start tweeting about it.
Don't get your own ad in there.
But it's like, you know, I'm totally open to having I want to have respectful conversations with people and like get other perspectives, but people word it so aggressively and they aren't willing to have a conversation.
Bork.
So that's why I got to delete it off my phone sometimes.
That's going on the TL somewhere.
I haven't
Bork
talked
is
to
gonna
Bork
tweet
in a
that.
while.
Me and
No
Bork
one
had a bit of a
has.
discourse yesterday about the Shang-Chi
Yeah.
color grading.
He's having a discourse with everyone. It's just, I don't know. I think there's a. What did you say, Hassan?
I said we need more positivity. Do you not agree, Mickey?
No, I don't. We need more negativity. I want to see more. hate on Twitter.
I do not.
I want to
got
see.
People freaked
wanna
out
see
the other
more-
day or a couple weeks ago. Or sorry, you go ahead.
No. I was just gonna say I want to see more hate on Twitter, so I can just put the Twitter trailer under every single one of my tweets.
Yeah. No, people got mad the other day because I said that all criticism should be constructive. And I figured when I tweeted that, I was like, there's no way people are going to disagree with me. Like, shouldn't all criticism be with the intent of making something better? And people just freaked out. And I was like, yo, what? Like, I didn't think people would be so like impacted by what I said. It was like, literally, I said criticism should be constructive or positively intended, and they just got so mad. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's funny because
People are
they'll
weird.
give you criticism that isn't exactly constructive. So it's like,
Yeah.
I guess by that
See,
logic too. it's
people,
like-
people like constructive criticism, but only when it's something that they want to hear.
Yeah. And like I'm not gonna say that all of the criticism I've offered has been constructive. I'm saying criticism should always be constructive. That doesn't mean that I'm always going to be delivering it constructively, because I'm not.
What
I'm
the
not
intent
perfect.
of? Yeah.
Yeah, it's being like, and like, they would try to pull up old tweets of mine and be like, you don't even follow the only thing you're saying. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly. I don't always follow that, and that's the point. Is I'm trying to, be constructive with everything I say, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to always be like that. I'm not always going to be, I'm trying to be that, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to, always follow that.
Yeah, and you can tell.
Emphasize on the personal level. Too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can tell by your tweets that you do that, because you quote tweeted Christian of all people yesterday as well, and you said,
People.
Of all people.
Wait, what?
did you not see he quote tweeted yesterday?
I like that.
Christian, you don't know. I'll send it to you.
I like that one.
He did a thread.
I'm really sorry. My notifications were wild yesterday, and I couldn't check many of them. I
But
was trying to stay off.
when you quoted him, you could tell because the way you worded it, you talked about both sides as well. So you tried to make people not get mad, and you said it is an alternate scenario and it's worth disagreement and
Hang on,
stuff.
let me quickly read this out. So I said, why are people so angry at Thanos? And Gavin said, I think it's stupid for people to get mad over it, given that it is an alternate scenario. However, I do think it's worth disagreement. It's supposed to be a spin on the main universe, which means the main Thanos could have been dismantled by a conversation. Yeah, I was just sort of just saying how
Comprehensive,
stupid
too.
it is for
Yeah,
people to pick a fight
I think,
over something that doesn't matter.
Yeah, people were so angry about the Thanos thing, and I'm like, it's not worth getting angry over. I think that there's a discussion to be had about it, and people just aren't willing to have a conversation like that. They just want to defend it, and it's like, I think we can have a conversation, and it's like not that big of a deal. We can disagree. We're allowed to disagree about it.
Because it's a Twitter thing of if you say it like a 240 character statement of like, I think this version of Spider-Man is better in these aspects, but I still respect this version of Spider-Man for something else, as opposed to a Far From Home poster, a greater than symbol, and a Spider-Man 2 poster. I mean, one gets
Exactly.
more likes and one gets a certain amount of likes. So like, I think
Exactly.
I mean it's the discourse nature of Twitter too, where it's like, I mean, you'll see it with other platforms as well. It's not just Twitter specifically, but I think. When you quote someone and you say that instead of giving them a comprehensive argument, it's a much different deal, and
A
I
lot
don't
of
think
people
there's any
don't
way to
want-
really get around that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't want to take the time to like read, so they're more. It's more simple to look at some pictures and then get angry about the pictures.
Yeah.
That's literally what actually people do.
With the amount
Yeah.
of times
You gotta
that
make
I've,
Gavin, you gotta make your next Lotus poster just like a picture of Tom Holland with a cancel like mark over. That's it.
you don't
That'll
understand how much hate you'd get from that. You'd literally.
it'd be. You'd get my support. That's all that really matters. Is my support. So,
Yeah.
What else would you need?
yeah.
Yeah.
But the amount of times that I've tweeted something really like stupid, and you can just tell that it's obviously dumb, just to get people, just to start a discourse around it. It's like you tweet something like, you know, the better than symbol, and then you just tweet like, this is the better than that, and it starts such a big argument.
I know.
It's just so funny to read it, how people actually think it for real.
That's what started like the biggest Lotus discourse ever, because someone put Lotus and they put a greater than symbol and they put No Way Home, and people just freaked out. It just exploded.
Well, like the suit conversation. I was there when that was so weird to watch, because I was like, they're two so different. Like, I get there's similarities, but they're different suits, you know, and they're different things. It's like, I don't know. It's such a, because it's just so weird to think that, because there's a thing of like the red pill blue pill thing where it's like if you had to pick one or the other, that's like a cool thing. But then when they're like, no, they're trying to say this is better than this and this is better than this, I feel like that's a weird tangent to go off of, and I think it's just happier for the Twitter mob to obsess over that argument and you know, up the engagement than anything else.
You posted the trailer at the perfect time. There was that big discourse, the huge one about the better than Tom Holland or whatever. Yeah. And then immediately after the trailer comes, that was perfect. And
yeah, you know what's funny? Yeah, dude, because I was thinking, you know, that was all going down, and I was already planning to release the trailer like a couple days later. I was like, yo, this is actually like perfect. So then I was like, dude, everybody's talking about it right now, so I may as well just drop it.
Yeah, and also the No Way Home trailer was like, everyone was talking about that apparently coming that week, and someone else in this call was talking about that.
Someone who was saying for sure it was coming out like that weekend.
Shut up, CJ.
Yeah, someone.
What happened?
Talking about the No Way Home trailer release date, but that week where I was saying it would drop, and then but then you dropped the Lotus trailer that week.
I just like you. I really dislike you.
Hey, yo, guys, 7 p.m. EST today. Oh,
hey, yo, Monday. Guys,
hey, yo, Monday.
Everyone's saying Monday.
I got an insider.
Which I actually
got an insider scoop. Lotus is actually dropping a year early. It's gonna drop in a couple
dropping tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, because it's coming next year. Have you guys started like previs edits and stuff like that, or like?
Yeah, I'm waiting on the CGI model to be completed. We're still kind of 3D scanning Warden and making sure it's accurate to his body. And once we have the CG model and once it's rigged and everything, I'm gonna get it to the artists and they're gonna start work on the VFX and everything.
So you guys film digital, right? What do you guys film on?
We filmed on a Zcam.
Okay. For some reason, I thought someone said you filmed on Blackmagic, and I was like, oh.
No. I think it'd be cool. Blackmagics are cool, but the cinematographer was more experienced with the Zcam, and then we just put an Animor. We had more of the adapters and stuff for the Zcam already, so we just went ahead and used that. And I think the specs between the Zcam and the Blackmagic are already very similar anyway. It'd be kind of pointless to buy a Blackmagic for it.
And yeah, and you guys are also like color grading separately and stuff too. So
yeah. The teaser was barely graded or anything like that. It was very, we just did it for the sake of the teaser, but we didn't want to. We weren't settled on the look for certain scenes yet, like completely. So it was kind of like it was kind of like a rough grade.
Yeah.
And then that makes sense too, because you're just putting out a teaser to show people footage, really. So
yeah,
I'm assuming you guys will release more trailers and stuff too. So
yeah, I just wanted to show people like the tone and the atmosphere and the vibe and everything. So yeah.
And I found a good question. It said, "What's the most fun Easter egg you put in the movie, if you put any, to like other Spider-Man media, or anything?"
Can you say that again?
It said, "What's the most fun Easter egg you got to put in the movie, if you put any in the movie, of the Spider-Man media?"
Oh man, there are so many. Especially in Tim Harrison's room. You'll just have to keep a lookout. Yeah, there are so many.
And
I haven't looked through that scene, but I'm assuming there's like just a bunch of Amazing Fantasy covers on there too.
Yeah.
By the way, I think we should wrap soon. It's been like an hour now, and I think that's good.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I don't have
so basically what we got from this was Green Goblin is going to be the villain. You have confirmed it.
Multiverse. Trailer Monday.
Alfred Molina will be reprising his role.
And he'll be spoiling it.
They're delaying No Way Home, and instead they're going to be releasing this in theaters.
And they're gonna delay this as well, and then we're gonna get a director's cut of this. Yo, are you gonna be dropping a director's cut?
Yo, release the Gavin cut.
Yeah. Well,
Can we get that trending?
Got Toby and Andrew and Tom, and Warden's not actually in the movie at all.
Yeah, that makes
Watch
sense.
that happen. Someone's gonna not like the
You're
movie
gonna-
and then start
you're gonna get-
campaigning for release of the Gavin cut or
It's-
something.
There's gonna you guys are gonna cut Gavin, or you guys are gonna cut Warden out, and then you're gonna put like Tom Holland in, and then there's gonna be a whole like
there's gonna be a
bring back
deepfake.
Warden. Yeah, there's gonna be
Bring back
deepfake
Warden.
him on. Bring back
Yeah.
Warden.
Yeah, he made all the scenes.
Alright. Does anyone have any last questions before we end it?
No, I just gotta say, man, you're.
What'd you say?
You go.
Oh
go.
no, I was.
No,
you
CJ
go.
say he's
I
gonna
was just-
wrap up.
Yeah,
you brought him
CJ,
up earlier. Confirm or deny, is Big Will in the movie?
Is Big Will in the movie? He doesn't appear
He
in any
hesitated.
No.
scenes. Look at Tim Harrison's room.
Oh,
Oh.
Okay, there we go.
the Easter eggs.
I was gonna say if I don't get a Big Will Easter egg out of this thing, I am giving
Yeah.
a dislike out of obligation.
It's,
So
it's
I guess
in
you
the
gotta
Gavin
go-
unicycle.
yeah.
Alright, Mithy, what was it that you wanted to say?
No, I was just gonna say, man, you're doing the work that I'm jealous of, man. This is, and I mean that completely positively. You from everything that I'm seeing for this, I'm so excited. I'm honestly, I mean, aside from like we're disregarding any negative connotation behind the fan film word, I'm treating this like it's like a film release. So it's been an honor talking with you, and I can't wait to see how this thing turns out.
Same for
Appreciate
all of
that,
us.
man. Thank you guys.
Lotus will be great.
It's so many people's dream to go out and make like a fan film with their favorite character, but you're actually doing it, and that's amazing. So you should be
Yeah.
really proud of what you've done.
Thank you, dude.
No worries. Alright, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening if you're listening. And go check out Spider-Man Lotus when it drops next year.
And this has been the Nitecast.